potential. Why do I say that? Because it boils down to a numbers game. The bottom line is that the more calls you make, the more chances you have to actually meet the person who is going to say, you know what, it's crazy that you called on me today because I was just looking for somebody who has the same type of product or service that you have, and you just show up. I've had that happen to me literally, I don't know, hundreds of times in my life. So the other thing is everybody can do it. And if you are a business owner, don't think you cannot cold call. Do not think it's not for you. I'll give you an example. If you're a business owner, nothing prevents you on a slow day. Go around your neighborhood, take a few business cards, a few brochures, introduce yourself, invite other business owners for lunch. Yes, it will cost you a lunch, but look at the possibilities. Who else does that in your industry? If you're competing with other similar businesses in your town, in your area, who else does that? You're probably going to be the only one doing it. You're likely going to make some friends, and you are going to meet people who will be connected to what you do. Like if you sell boats, you might go and knock on the door of a chiropractor, you invite that guy for lunch, and he's going to say, you know what? I am a boat owner. I'm a boater. I didn't even know about your business or whatever. You go for lunch. You might pick him up as a new client. You never know. I feel that when you do things like that, that are out of the ordinary, you start moving electrons. You start changing the dynamic of how things are done normally. And this is when things really exciting happens, when you move these electrons in the universe. And who knows what happens? I always look at cold calling as I always do that with so much enthusiasm. I love cold calling because I love the unknown of meeting somebody that I've never met before. And I'm thinking the possibilities. This person not only might become a client, but might become my next best friend, right? So you never know until you open that door. Sorry, until you make that call. Sorry, I forgot to say we should make sure to turn off your cell phones. So anyway, if you own a brick and mortar business, it can be depressing at times. And I've been there. I used to own a record store in France, in a small town. Depressing to wait for people to show up because you have no control on that. You open the door in the morning, your overhead are running, but like you can't control, you can't go and grab people in the street. But one thing you can do again, you can go around and you can introduce yourself to the local businesses around, tell them you're here, invite them for lunch. Who knows what's going to happen? Doesn't cost anything, only a little bit of time. So I like to say that cold calling puts you back in the driver's seat and it gives you additional power because you cannot control how many people come into your brick and mortar. Or if you want to generate leads the traditional way, and I'm not saying not to do it, of course you should still do it, but it costs money, Google Ads and so on. Here, you're in control, you take the power back and it's free. And there are three types of cold call. In person, which is the best, but it's not always possible. Why is it the best? Because when you're meeting in person at a place of business, you can observe the business. It gives you things to talk about according to what you see, the look of the place. Obviously you can see it when a business owner has put a lot of thoughts behind the decor, for example, and you can compliment them on that as an example. You can't do that when you're calling on the phone. And also the body language. When you're cold calling in person, you can watch the body language of the person you're talking to. You cannot do that on the phone. On the phone, it's much easier for people to get rid of you. I'm not interested. Thank you. Dead. You're finished. When you're in person, with your own body language too, you can influence the other person's kind of reaction to your cold outreach. So yeah, so you can discover various points of alignment, I call it, when you're calling in person. Of course, when you're calling on the phone, one of the benefits is that you can make a lot of calls in a short period of time. So it's good if you have a very vast amount of businesses or consumers that you can reach with your product, but it's not as good if you have a limited amount of businesses, because every call really matters. So you want to make sure that if it is possible, it's better to do it in person. I mean, when you are doing a cold call, whether it's on the phone or in person, and it's even more important if it is on the phone, because it is so easy for people to get rid of you. Sorry, it's very important that you start by making a general statement that they cannot object to. So you have to know the industry that you're calling on, and you have to understand your prospect as far as maybe their competition. Like, for example, if you're calling on a small business, a brick and mortar small business, and there is a Walmart that just happened to open 3 months before in the same neighborhood, of course, you should be talking about the fact that small businesses have been impacted negatively by, the big box stores. And yes, a Walmart in the town has a negative impact on small business. And you should make that statement, and you'll see them nodding their head. You're creating empathy, you're connecting. And then what do? You say, well, doing business with us, we have a product, we have a service that offers you, the small business, the family-owned business, a solution to that problem. And by the way, we do celebrate small business in our company, and this is why, So always start with a general statement that they can agree with. A big mistake that salespeople make when they make a cold call, especially on the phone, nobody cares about your name, what company you are from. They don't care, right? Because first of all, very likely they won't even know your company. But if you start by saying, hi, my name is whatever, can I speak with John? John, the reason why I'm calling you today is because I could use the example of Walmart then you've got their attention. And then you can say, and the reason of my call is I'd like to spend, book an appointment with you and meet with you for maybe half an hour and discuss with you. If you're open to it, that's a very good word to use. If you are open to it, is a very good word to use to discuss how we can help overcome the problems, the challenges that this big store is putting down in front of you. So how to present your product? Well, body language is very important. I mean, you're not going to sell to somebody who has his or her arms closed. No way. There are techniques to have people open your arms. And all of this I discuss in much more depth in my Cash 22. Okay, so that is a 5-second sales pitch, 5 seconds. Cash 22, $47. It's a really good deal. 22 video modules on all the different points and more that I'm discussing here. But instead of scratching the surface like I'm doing here, I go really deep. So I talk about the body language in depth because there's so much to talk about. And it's not just the body language of your prospect, it's your own body language. Watching your own body language as you're talking, as you're presenting is very important. So I have a voice in my head as I'm talking. Am I talking too fast? Am I not letting it breathe enough? Am I listening well? Am I hunched over? Am I standing straight? How do I project? All of this, you have to constantly be monitoring that. But you also need to watch your prospect. Are they looking somewhere else? Are they looking you in the eye? You cannot sell to somebody who is not looking you in the eyes. It's impossible. So you have to create that connection. So when somebody is not looking me in the eye, I stop talking. I just stop because I'm not going to connect with them. There's no way. So these are the signs that you need to look for. And again, if you take my Cash 22 program, then you will learn much more in detail about how that works. So how to close the sale? Well, I really believe that it's actually a mistake to think that way. I mean, people are trained normally in so many sales training courses about closing the sale as it is something that happens at the end. Closing the sale happens from the moment you say hello to somebody, the hello to a new potential client. That's when it starts. And the bottom line is, in order to you close the sale every time you hear a yes from your prospect. So the key is you take people on the journey, you paint a picture of an outcome. Remember, I was talking about if you're selling RVs and the outcome is not for them to buy a piece of steel, a box of steel, the outcome is to access creating these new memories, this quality family time that unfortunately is often disappearing today because the kids are spending all their time on their tablet or their phone playing stupid games. That quality family time, that quality, that connection with nature is disappearing very quickly. So to access that, the vehicle could be an RV or a boat, let's say, or a kayak or whatever. But that is the outcome that you want. So closing the sale is taking them on a journey for them to see that they can get that outcome. And so it happens in a way, it's asking questions, but the questions should be genuine, they should be real, they should not be gimmicky. And it's knowing when to want to ask a question that is open-ended, that allows what it means, it allows your customer to tell you more, or close-ended questions that would lead to a yes or a no. So you use close-ended question when you really want to get a yes, and the more yeses you get, every time you get a yes, you close a door. Because imagine the sales process are walking down the hallway. At the end of the hallway, there is a beautiful prize, like a gold statue or something. That's the sell. That's the close, okay? You're walking down that hallway, and all along the hallway, there are doors that can open or close. And you take your prospect by the hand. And the idea is to walk along that hallway with your prospect. And every time a door opens, you pass through the door, you want to close the door behind you. Why? Because if you spend an hour and a half talking about your product, your service, and you want that outcome, which is getting the commitment at the end, and your prospect goes back to, yes, but I don't have the time to implement that service, because you forgot to close that door. That problem maybe was brought up at the beginning of the conversation, but you forgot to lock it behind you as you were moving along. They go back there, you can't close the sale. So that is the process. So it requires small adjustments along the way, and it requires that you get a yes along the way. Again, I go much more in detail in the Catch 22. So I'm going to wrap it up in about 5 minutes, because then Jennifer is going to be speaking. I want to briefly talk about objections. A lot of people are afraid, especially salespeople, are afraid of objections, but actually objections and they really can be, I think they are your best friend, assuming they are real objection, because there is a difference between a real objection and a fake objection. A fake objection being a smoke screen. It's something that your prospect would say because, let's say, they don't want to hurt your feeling. They just want to get out of that. They don't want to give you more time. They're not interested. But instead of saying, I'm not interested, they're going to say something, I need to talk to my wife, or whatever it is, right? In fact, they're never going to be a client, often, if it's a fake objection. So you need to realize, okay, is it a real objection or a fake objection? Sometimes the objection is not fake, but it's just because you didn't explain properly your product or your service. So they don't really understand. So you need to also identify whether that is the case or not. So what would be an example of a fake objection? A fake objection would be something like, I need to think about it. Well, I need to think about it. We all get that in sales. It's not an objection. Again, I hear people in sales training courses that it's an objection. It's not. I want to think about it hides an objection. The key is to find out what the real objection is when they say, I want to think about it. One of the methods I use for that is what I call the Colombo method. You remember Colombo? Peter Falk, I love that actor. Remember when he looked like he was walking away, and then he would turn back for a few minutes, and he would scratch his head. I'm just curious. And he would just come back with one thing, just one more thing. Remember that? So what it does, and it's beautiful. In the case of Colombo, that guy he was talking is probably guilty. That was the guy who committed the crime. So when they see that the inspector walks away, they breathe a sigh of relief. Oh God, I'm in the clear. But then Colombo comes back and he has that one point. He knew what it was beforehand, of course, but he wanted the guards of that person to go down. And then he has that question very casually, and they are caught by surprise. It's the same thing in sales, okay? I want to think about it. So you act as you're leaving. I often even pack my gear, put it back in my briefcase, and I appear like I'm going to walk away. But then I turn around and I say, I'm just out of curiosity. I'm just wondering, what aspect is it of what I discussed with you that you really want to think about? Was it the price, or was it that, or was it that? Then it forces, so first of all, they did relax because, oh, he's not pressuring me into a sell. So they relax, their guard is down. And then I'm going to find out if they say, oh no, it's a whole thing. I like to take time before I make a decision. Forget it. Very likely they're not going to buy. But they might say, well, actually, this is what's happening, blah, blah, blah. We've been thinking about renovating, whatever it is. No, you have a real objection. And now you can sink your teeth into it, and you can hopefully present a benefit or a feature of your product that can overcome that objection and bring you back into being back in the hallway and almost getting that sale, locking the doors behind you, getting that sale. That's beautiful how it works, the Colombo technique. The last thing I'd like to say about objection, there is so much more. Again, it's all in the catch-22. It's about overcoming objection before they show up. I mean, one of the things that salespeople are afraid of sometimes, they're afraid to get an objection at the end. They're afraid of it. And they present with that fear. If you have that fear when you present, you're not going to close the sale. It's going to be very difficult. So I like to tackle potential issues head on, okay? Head on, and bring them up at the beginning before they show up. So for example, if I'm afraid that my prospect or my client is going to postpone the decision, put it on the back burner because they are concerned of the recession, I am going to bring up the recession upfront. I'm going to confront it upfront, and I am going to show it as one more reason, and maybe the main reason why they should do business with us. So using an objection at the beginning, an objection that you're afraid that you're going to get at the end before the objection shows up. And another thing that it does, it allows you to stay in control. It allows you to stay in control. So at BizWell, we are all about developing relationships. And really, what I love about selling, what I love about what I do, is I love that. I love developing relationships. I love meeting new people. I love, taking relationship along the way to who knows where it goes, and being of service and connecting with people. That's what motivates me today at the stage I am in my life. And that was one of the motivating factors behind BizWell. I mean, Lisa Levasseur and Gérard Levasseur and Jerry, the whole Levasseur family, created a trust, a family, a community trust. and they are all about giving money back to communities. So we are all about developing relationship. It is very, very important for us. So in closing, I like to say that we need to use our existing network of friends and customers in order to grow our business. And this is something we really leverage in our BizWell platform, especially if you are part of our Founders Club, which I will say a couple of words at the end after Jenny's presentation. In closing, I would like to say that I don't know among you who is familiar with the Cactus Club. It's one of my favorite chain restaurants. I think they are located in BC and Alberta, maybe a couple in Saskatchewan, in Ontario, I'm not too sure. But I saw in a couple of Cactus Club a neon sign in the back, and the neon sign was the House of Yes. I just absolutely love it. And the level of service at the Cactus Club is bar none the best. I mean, if you're not happy with your food, they will return it, they will exchange it, no question asked. And I think they really go beyond, above and beyond. Yes, they charge a little bit more than some other, like White Spot. You pay more at Cactus Club, but that service, I think people, they're always busy. And one of the reasons is because they were able to create a culture. That is their culture. It's part of that culture, the House of Yes. What does it mean? It means over-delivering for the clients, because today it is so tough to be in business. There's so much competition, so much challenges. If you only give people what they expect, it's not enough for them to really talk about you. But if you deliver above and beyond what they expected, they are going to mention your name. They are going to talk to their friends and family. And you know what? That's free. Yes, delivering above and beyond might cost you a little bit when you do it, but the rewards are unprecedented. So I love it. I like to say, I aspire to live by the House of Yes philosophy in my business, whether it's BizWell or Citrus Pie. Thank you very much for listening. I'd love to introduce Jennifer now. Jennifer is our partner in BizWell, and she has